This morning we're exploring moving from I'm to I am. And what that's really about is this second step of treatment, unification. And unification is a noun, it's not a verb. And we sometimes get confused about that in that second step. That we think it's a process of unifying ourselves, when in fact it's simply a process of recognizing that we have always been unified. In fact, it's quite impossible for us to be anything other than unified. I was actually reading a book last night, The Principles of Oneness, in preparation for October 2019 talks. We do these in advance for Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm head of the talks that come together in the month of October, and we're using a book called The Principles of Oneness. And it's great because it literally puts quantum physics in user-friendly terms, which is not an easy task. Niels Bohr that said if you understand quantum physics, you haven't studied quantum physics. The bulk of it is scientifically now, we can prove, first of all, that we don't actually exist. Right? I know we think we do. I know, when I eat, I think I'm feeding a body. But in truth, form is an illusion. Nothing solid here. Nothing. There are no two atoms touching in anything that we think is solid. Mostly what we see is space. And thought brings it into form. And when you look at it anatomically, every element of life is identical. It's absolutely identical. And all we are in this quantum field is energy that collides, comes into form, and then goes back into the field of energy. We haven't changed. We've simply appeared to be in this form for a period of time, which also is an illusion, because in infinity there is no time, there's just space and energy. And it's kind of trippy if you think about it. Like, when you leave here today and you're driving your very solid car on a very solid road, holding onto a very solid steering wheel, none of it's true. But be careful, because if you bump into a very solid tree, you will feel it like it's real. It's that blending of science and spirituality. Why is this important? Because my human brain thinks I'm separate from you. My human brain thinks I'm separate from this microphone. It thinks I'm separate from my pets. It thinks I'm separate, and it really wants to think I'm separate from people who I disagree with. I can't possibly be one with you. Oh, no. And in fact, if you would just get out of the pool, our oneness would instantly be better. And ain't a word of truth in it. Not a word. Because everything is that divine energy in form. When we get stuck in the behaviors of the form, of the choices of the form, then it's easy to forget that we are always unified with everything that we experience. Always have been, always will be. No way to disconnect. because you can't destroy the energy of the infinite. You can't. So try as we may, there is no way to get rid of any element that we dislike. However, there is a solution, and it's called love. It's called that place where we recognize the I am. Capital I, capital A, capital M. It's that place where if we will dare to go, that, when I'm looking through these eyes into those eyes, all I see is divinity. I stop seeing your behavior. I stop seeing my opinion of you. And I see the truth of you. That's what practitioners do. That's what they study to do. That's what they have taken a vow to do. And it's not always easy. Especially in the truth of unification, the truth of oneness, is that as a practitioner, as a minister, everything you need to work on shows up in a different body as one of your clients. They told us that in school, and we all go, yeah, whatever. And then it happens. It's no different for you in your walk of life. Everything that you struggle with about yourself, every area of you that you don't want to meet, embrace, own, and love, will show up in somebody else. It'll show up on your TV screen, it'll show up as your politician, it'll show up as your child, but it will show up. What are the options? Ignore that, deny that, pretend that it's not happening, and suffer, or embrace. Literally recognize, isn't this an interesting way for me to show up and show me about me? Stop the separation. Stop the polarization. Stop the othering. There was an incident in Texas a couple days ago. Where a young black man, 26 years old, Botham John, had somebody trying to get into his apartment that he was peacefully living in, minding his own business. And I imagine Botham going to his door, looking through the peephole and seeing a full uniformed police officer outside his door. And so with the certainty of living in a gated, high-end apartment building, he opens his door and he's shot to death because the police officer mistakenly took his apartment for her apartment. And she immediately went wherever she went in consciousness, I don't know, because we don't have that information. And I can make up a lot of stories about what I think happened. And in the earthly plane, I might even be right. It changes nothing. A young man's life is gone. A young woman's career is gone. A family is devastated. Those are just the facts of the situation. My call to each of you, when those things happen, is to stand squarely in the truth of our teaching and understand that you are Botham John. You answered that door. You are the officer who shot him. You are his mother who grieves. You are the Dallas police chief, who I can only imagine as the police chief and a black woman has some challenges with this situation. See, it's easy to watch that from a distance. It's easy to say, I feel their pain, and it would be a lie. Because in the truth of oneness, your pain is my pain. There is no other. And when we dare to stand in the truth of that, we will change the experience for everybody. See, as long as we stay separate and I can point a finger at you and blame you for my consciousness, I don't have to do anything except judge you. But if we will dare to stand in the absolute truth of oneness with every expression, own every experience as your own, because that's what unification really is. Celebrate the highs. Embrace the lows. Instead of pointing fingers, change your consciousness. Knowing that as you change your consciousness, the consciousness of the whole must change, because there's only one consciousness. It's only one consciousness. When our body is sick, our whole body feels it. When our whole body is sick, our whole body feels it. We can stay in the limited consciousness of the little I'm, which is usually followed by all the things we're not, as we point to other people. Or we can stand squarely in the truth of our I am and be about the business of healing. Not healing you, not healing me, healing. And all that means, I love Ernest Holmes, there is never anything to be healed, only more consciousness to be revealed. Yeah. We get stuck in the conditioning. The I am is the absolute. The I am has no illness. So what is there to heal? The illness comes from our confusion, thinking we're something we're not. And so as we reveal the truth of who we are, there's no room for the illness. There's no room for the confusion. It has to go, because it no longer has a place. Last week we did a brief exercise. We're going to do that again. Ushers, if you'll start handing out those little pieces of paper. We're going to go inward for just a minute. And all the little piece of paper says is, I am. And as we go inward, allow absolute consciousness, allow divinity, allow the truth of you to tell you who you am. Because it knows. Beyond all of our human ideas of, I'm a minister, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a gardener, I'm a musician. Beyond all of those I's, allow yourself to know the voice of your soul that says, I am. Has everybody got one? Good to see you, Don. Okay. So I invite you for the moment just to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And just allow yourself to go as deeply inward as you can. Releasing any of your ideas of who you are based in this human experience. Recognizing that the one, the infinite, the absolute, whether we call it God, Spirit, Mother, Father, the infinite, Yokwa, Wankin Tonkin, by whatever name we use, there is a place within us that knows who that is, because we are it in form. And so I invite you to just allow yourself to become aware of that within you that says, I am. I am. I am. And when that comes to you, just simply write it down and know it is your truth. And it is the truth of all, because there is only one I am. So as each person finishes up, I go into prayer anchoring this experience. Into that place of conscious communion with the I am. First recognizing that it is all there is, that there is no other. That this one, this I am, is that singular source, that singular creator, creating out of itself, by itself, into a multiplicity of expressions of itself. Perfectly creative, infinitely diverse, yet wholly unified with itself at all times. No possibility of separation. Its abundance, its intelligence, its peace, its joy, its power, its beauty. Everything that it is, its power to create, its power to love, all of that fully embodied in every aspect of its creation. Its consciousness is the consciousness of the one. And so because that is true and I am here in form, it must be my life. All that it is must live, move, and have its being in, through, and as me. So everything that it is already mine. It's already me. because I am the I am in the form of this physical being. And what is true of me is true of all. And so every interaction I have is an interaction with the I am as the I am. And so I call that up as the reality of my life. I call that up as the prayer of intention to walk in daily. That regardless of appearance, regardless of conditions, that I turn away from anything that would fool me from knowing the full truth of the I am as every individual that I encounter. Of every word I read, of every note I sing, of everything I watch and listen to and take in. Owning that the truth of it all is that I am that. I am that. Grateful for this opportunity to speak my heart aloud, to know that I amness in such a public way. Grateful that there is no part that wants to run and hide anymore. Grateful for this community of open minds that are hungry for their I amness, who have the courage to stand in a vision of oneness and make it so. Grateful that the law works every time, whether we try it or not, it works. And so every thought, every thing that is spoken into it, every belief is met with a yes. And so I let it go, I let it be, and I glory in that yes. And I invite you, if any of this has resonated with you, to join me as we anchor it together by saying, and so it is. I want you to each really get how freaking amazing you are. Because you are. You are. You are creation in form. And you're so amazing that it trusts you completely, without exception, with its experience of itself. No rules, no restrictions.